You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Davis if Green Track returns dog racing. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news. It's free. Godfrey Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM hosts Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, here we go. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show for this Tuesday, August 6, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Of course, I've got Chase Brumfeld right there on the other side of the glass, manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline, 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904 is that number if you want to give us a call today on the show. We're going to run it down for you. We do have a change on the schedule. Had a conflict with the scheduling situation today, so we're going to be a little short-handed on guests, but we'll figure it out. But we'll tell you about that here in just a moment. First, though, I need to tell you, as always, this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit really is just a better way of banking, because I want you to take a minute just to really think about what I said. Member-owned and not-for-profit. Okay, I guarantee you that's not what the situation is at a regular banking institution. You're just a customer. You're not a member, and they are definitely for profit. They're taking your money and using it to pay off their shareholders. The credit union is taking your money and using it for higher dividends and lower interest rates for you, the member. That is the difference. Find out more at Alabama Credit Union's great website. That's alabamacu.com, alabamacu.com, or simply stop by and see them at one of their many locations, including their hub right here in Tuscaloosa or anywhere around the state of Alabama in the panhandle of Florida. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership. Then join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, here's the lineup. 9:30, it's the Rocket Man, Drew DeArmond. We had Christian Jones, former Alabama wide receiver and new head football coach at Paul Bryant High School, lined up for 10:30, but he texted me a short time ago and said they're starting school tomorrow, and he said he's got a conflict. He just simply can't get loose this morning for us, so we'll reschedule Coach for another time. But in the meantime, since it was just a really short notice, that I found out he wasn't going to be on. I don't have another guest scheduled, so that means the second hour we're going to be wide open. But we do have a lot of good stuff to get to. We did not finish yesterday our clips from Kalen DeBoer that we had from Sunday. Also, we have the Nick Sheridan, Alabama offensive coordinator clips that we can get to. And, of course, obviously we have discussion topics that I'll break down for you and your phone calls. So we'll be good to go. That's not going to be an issue. Of course, Chase can always chime in with me as well. But we'll get Christian Jones back on. I was really looking forward to having him on this morning. But those things happen. I understand he's got a brand new job. They're getting ready to try to play a game here in a couple of weeks. School starts tomorrow. And he just texted me this morning about 8:30 and just said, listen, man, I just can't make it this morning. We'll just have to try to reschedule. And I said, okay, that's what we have to do. If someone can't make it, they can't make it. All right, it's 9:08 here on the Gary Harris Show. And I tell you what we're going to do, Chase, this morning. Let me pull them out over here. I got my headlines right here. Let's go ahead and hit them up with some Tuesday morning headlines here to get us going here on the Gary Harris Show. The preseason coaches poll was released yesterday, and Alabama was at number 5 behind Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas. It is the lowest preseason ranking for the Crimson Tide since 2009, when Alabama was also voted 5th by the panel of coaches. Yesterday's poll was signals an end to a 14-season Tide streak of being among the top 3 teams in the country in that preseason poll. This fall will be the first with head coach Kalen DeBoer, who was hired to replace Nick Saban in January. And Alabama was one of 9 SEC schools to make the preseason poll, and the Crimson Tide will face 5 of those teams: Georgia, Missouri, LSU, Tennessee, and Oklahoma this fall. The top 5, including Alabama, ahead of Alabama, is Georgia at number 1, Ohio State at number 2, Oregon at number 3, and Texas at number 4. Well, after 2 practices in shorts on Wednesday and Thursday, Alabama football was off on Friday, then practiced in shells on Saturday and Sunday morning. Yesterday was an off day, and then today, this morning, they're going out in full pads for the first time. That practice is underway over at the Thomas Drew practice fields, and that might be what I try to do. Chase, since we lost Christian Jones, I might try to get us a guest from practice over there for the second hour, since the media viewing period will be wrapping up probably about 9:30. We know a bunch of people there at practice, including Wyatt and Ryan. We had Ryan on last week. We might get Wyatt Fulton on here in the second hour. I might shoot him a text and tell him we need to get him on. So practice continues for Alabama football, and there will be media availability following practice. In fact, let me check to see who we've got today. Defensive players and coaches will be meeting with the media today at 11:45 a.m. So another big day for Alabama football. Got some Bama in the NFL updates now. With his contract extended, Tua Tagovailoa is loose but serious about getting the Dolphins to the Super Bowl. He's really assumed a leadership role with Miami. And yesterday in practice, he brought the fans to their feet when he threw a deep ball to the cheetah, Tyreek Hill, who laid out for it, made the catch, and got up and let everybody know about it. It was really a nice play there in practice. Here's an interesting note on another former Alabama quarterback. Flag football will be in the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, and the NFL has chosen its player to serve as the public figure for the event. Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts. The league announced Monday that Hurts would be the Olympic flag football ambassador, posting a video of the quarterback promoting the 2028 Olympic Games. There will be both men's and women's flag football in those Olympics. And we might be seeing a lot of the Carolina Panthers' third and fourth team quarterbacks this preseason. Why? Well, with the injuries piling up on the roster, Carolina Panthers head coach Dave Canales was asked yesterday if there's a possibility that starting quarterback Bryce Young won't appear at all in the exhibition games. With backup Andy Dalton already sidelined with a quad injury, Canales admitted a scenario is possible that includes Bryce Young not playing at all in the preseason. Now, he didn't say that he wouldn't, but he just said, you've got Dalton hurt already. They don't want to take any chance on getting Bryce Young hurt. And even though exhibition games probably aren't played with the same intensity that regular season games are played with, they're still full contact tackle football. And if the quarterback's out there, obviously there's an opportunity for him to get hurt. And you don't want that to happen to your quarterback anytime. And Young played all 17 games last year for the Panthers, but you for sure don't want it happening in an exhibition game. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So that's something that they're going to take into consideration there in Carolina. Of course, at the same time, you know and I know that to get a player really ready to play, there's nothing like game reps. And so that's what they're going to weigh up there in Charlotte. Jim Harbaugh denies any wrongdoing amid Michigan allegations, because after being one of 7 members of the 2023 Michigan football program accused of violating NCAA rules and a draft of the NCAA's notice of allegations, Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh said this, quote, "Never lie, never cheat, never steal. I was raised with that lesson. I have raised my family on that lesson. I have preached that lesson to the teams that I've coached. No one is perfect. If you stumble, you apologize and you make it right. Today, I do not apologize. I did not participate, was not aware nor complicit in those said allegations. So it's back to work and attacking with enthusiasm unknown to mankind." Harbaugh, that's his quote. Harbaugh, who left Michigan to coach the Chargers after winning a national championship in January, is accused of committing a level 1 violation, the most serious category in the NCAA's enforcement process. The NCAA accuses Harbaugh of not cooperating because he denied the organization's request to view relevant messages and phone records from his cell phone. The draft says Harbaugh could face a show cause restriction if he ever opts to return to college sports, which at this point probably is very unlikely. I think his college coaching days are over. I think he's an NFL guy now to his retirement. So that probably would not affect him. Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter and defensive back coach Steve Clinkscale, who came to the NFL with Harbaugh from Michigan, are also accused of recruiting violations in the draft notice. So we're going to see. I was asked yesterday on a phone call about what I thought would happen. I don't think much is going to happen to Michigan, even though the current head coach, Jerome Moore, is involved in this. And it also goes back to the sign stealing scandal. I just don't think right now the NCAA is in position to really try to hand out severe penalties anymore. And I think if they do, schools will just fight them on it. We've seen that happen already with other schools that have stood their ground and not very much happened. Recent probation case with Kentucky. The Wildcats had to vacate 10 victories from 2021 in football, but there's nothing going forward. There's no bowl game ban. There's no restrictions. So that might be what they do with Michigan. Now, the caller yesterday pointed out that if they vacated wins from this past season, would they have to vacate the national championship? It is a good question. I still don't see that happening, but we'll find out. All right, it's 9:16. We're off and running here on the Gary Harris Show. Phone lines are wide open on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. Drew DeArmond coming up with us, the Rocket Man, at 9:30. As we said, Christian Jones, head coach at Paul Bryan High School, former Alabama wide receiver. We'll have to reschedule with him, but we will do so. But he won't be with us this morning at 10:30 as posted on my Twitter account /X account this morning. But I may try to get somebody from over at Alabama football practice to step in with us this morning to give us an update on the practice today, the first in full pads. All right, that is the first segment of the show. We'll take a break and come back with much more. Gary Harris. And your phone calls are welcome. As I said, 205-342-9904. Chase Brumfeld's ready to take them. We'll be right back after this.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time.
Because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Selection varies by location. While supplies last, discount taken at time of purchase. See sales associate for details.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house.
Visit your local Total Wireless store today. Total Wireless, we're totally with you. Actual speeds may vary by location. For data management practices, see TotalWireless.com.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow truck, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadways.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's move over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the roadside. And if you can't safely move over, please slow down.
Visit DriveSafeAlabama.org. Brought to you by the Alabama Department of Transportation, Alabama Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather hot and dry today with a good supply of sunshine, the high 95. Clear tonight, the low 74. Tomorrow is sunny day, the high 97. Thursday and Friday, lots of sunshine both days, highs between 92 and 95. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show. For Alabama sports, Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
.920, welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. We've had really some great phone call interaction the last couple of shows. Friday was unbelievable. Yesterday was busy. And today we're wide open. So if you want to give us a call right now, phone lines are open. We can get you right through at 205-342-9904. That's 205-342-9904 on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. Drew DeArmond coming up at 9:30. All right, back to Alabama football and the rankings because the coaches poll. Again, it is noteworthy that Alabama has not been picked out of the top 3 since 2009. That year, they were 5th. That year, Nick Saban won his first national championship at Alabama. Remember, Alabama the year before had gone 12-0 in the regular season in 2008 and then lost a heartbreaker to Florida in the fourth quarter at the SEC championship game. They got Tebowed. Tim Tebow had an unbelievable fourth quarter to lead the Gators to comeback victory, and Florida went on to win the national championship. The next year, Alabama, despite that 12-0 finish a regular season after losing to Florida in the SEC championship game, then losing to Utah in the Sugar Bowl, the Tide at a 12-2 clip and 2 final losses to end the season in, or actually I should say, 12-2. They went 12-2. That's right. Because they're 12-0, lost their last 2. They were picked 5th in the coaches poll in 2009, and as I said, went 14-0 and won the SEC championship and national championship. So that's got absolutely nothing to do with this season, but it is ironic, I guess, that that's the last time they were picked out of the top 3, which is an amazing statistic in its own right, and still in the top 5. 15 years ago, and Alabama won the national championship. Now, it was Saban's 3rd year. This is DeBoer's 1st year, but clearly the program that Nick Saban took over in 2007, a lot different than the program that Kalen DeBoer took over in 2024. So at this point, I'm not predicting Alabama will win the national championship, but I certainly think Alabama is in contention. I do. And that's something that I believe. As I have said many times here over the last few weeks, I will do my Alabama breakdown game-by-game predictions coming up in the very near future. Also, this note, and Chase played a part of this, as did Justin Jones before he left. The latest ratings are in for radio, Nielsen ratings, and the Gary Harris Show is number 1 on Tide, and we're proud of that. It's the 2nd consecutive book that's happened, Chase, and you know what? It's I'm just honored to be a part of a great lineup for all of our shows. I like all of them. We promote them all. They're all good, but it does feel good to be number 1.
Congratulations, first of all. I'm glad to be just a small part of that because you get a lot of the praise of what you do here on this show. We really enjoy what you do. And listeners as well will contest to that, but I saw that and it's huge, very huge.
Yeah. So, and if you're an advertiser out there and you want to be on the show, get in touch with me. We can certainly work something out. Again, it's all the shows are very, very good, but you know, I'm happy, no doubt about that. Appreciate everybody that's listening, and certainly all the people that were listening that have ratings books and put the Gary Harris Show in there. All right, let's get out on the hotline and welcome in Philip. Hey, good morning, Philip.
Good morning, Gary. Yeah, it was great the last few days. I've just been right back just listening to the one call after the other. So great job on that. Great shows and a lot of fun. But I was going to ask you, I've got my calendar out here, and So Bama has practice today and soon tomorrow.
Yes.
And then I guess is that first scrimmage?
They're going to go on a pretty good run here this week. They practice today, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, scrimmage on Saturday, and then have the fan day on Sunday before taking a break on Monday. So they're in a stretch right now where they're going to practice 6 straight days.
Yeah, wow. Whew. Well, that's going to be a challenge right there for the guys. That'll be 9 out of their 20 practices will be done at that point, and then they'll probably follow up the next week. Probably take maybe a little bit more time off. They'll have that second scrimmage on the 17th. I would guess.
That's right. They will. They'll have like I said, after practicing through the weekend and having a scrimmage on Saturday and fan day on Sunday, they'll be off Monday. Then they'll practice next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then take off Sunday. So they'll have another long stretch, and then the next week, they'll wrap up fall camp. They'll practice, they'll be off Sunday and Monday. Then they'll practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then you are into game week. So you'll wrap up fall camp on Saturday, August the 24th.
Gary, will you send some folks to Madison this year? Will y'all go up there?
You know, we are working on that. I am not going to go. I can tell you right now, because I have my high school show, and it's a 1 hour show, as you know, on Friday night, and we don't have. Not that somebody else couldn't do it, but it's a very involved show, and the way we're set up, we need everybody that we can to work on that show, and so it's just, if it were a nighttime game, Philip, there is a chance that I could go. If it were, let's say it was a 7 o'clock kickoff in Madison rather than 11 a.m. kickoff, there's a chance. Now, is there a possibility that we send someone? Yes, there is a possibility. We're still working all that out. I would say right now, because of the distance involved and that we're probably not going to staff that game, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. And I would love to go to Madison, Wisconsin for a football game. I really would. This is one of those that I'm very disappointed that I'm not getting to go. But with an hour high school show on Friday night, and us not having another time, I've had people tell me, well, you used to go to road trips but we had I had a bigger staff then, just to cut through the chase. I had a bigger sports staff than I do now. So if I went on a Friday night, I went to a game where we had to travel on a Friday, I had somebody here at the studio to anchor the high school show, and then I could do live reports from the Friday night location of where they were playing on Saturday. We're not set up to do that anymore, Phil. We just don't, and that's not just us. That's a lot of TV stations. We just don't have a big enough staff for somebody to be back here in the studio, still have enough people to cover high school football on Friday night, have me and a photographer in Madison, Wisconsin doing lab shots. We just don't have, that type of personnel. So I'm sad about it. That's one of those. There's not that, because I've been to all the SEC stadiums. Well, I still haven't gone to College Station, believe it or not, but I've been to the rest of them, and I haven't been to Mizzou. But I've been to 12 of the 14. Of course, now there'll be 16. But you know what I'm saying. I've been to most of the SEC stadiums. But I would love to go to Madison, Wisconsin to watch this football game, but it's just not going to happen. But we still might be able to send somebody. I don't know.
You never know. Yeah, who are the top 3 or 4 high school football teams over in a 50-mile radius of Tuscaloosa this year?
Oh, gosh. Great question. I'll just say this in terms of, if I pick a great 2A team, obviously they wouldn't be great in 7A. But I'm just saying the best teams in our area for their classification. Tuscaloosa Academy is going to be very strong again. American Christian Academy is going to be very, very strong again. Hillcrest has been incredibly strong the last few years, but they move up from 6A to 7A, and they lost a lot of players off that team last year. Gordo is going to be really strong again, as they are every year. Here in Tuscaloosa, I think Central, Bryant, and Northridge are all going to be competitive. I don't see any of them being what I would call state championship caliber teams. Tuscaloosa County High School, I think, is going to be better. They've been getting better each year, but again, I don't see them, it'd be possible for them to make the playoffs, maybe as a 4 seed. But Bibb County is going to be really good down in Centerville. They're really good. So just off the top of my head, that's some of the teams that we need to watch. And in Class 1A, Pickens County with Michael Williams is always really good.
Right. Well, look, man, I know you got to get Drew on. Enjoy the show, and y'all have a great
call. You'll absolutely talk to me. 205-800-8000. I've got this.
No representations made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Never miss a moment of the action. Download the free Tide 100.9 app today.
She packed my bags last night, pre-flight. 0 hour, 9 a.m.
9:32. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and it is time for the Rocky Man, Rudy Arm, 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville. He co-hosts Talking Ball weekday mornings from 7 to 9 with Scott Tyson. Does a lot of radio shows as guest, including my show, Ryan Fowler's show, and really radio stations all over the Southeast, and also a contributor to TiderInsider.com. Before we get to Drew, something I want to correct. I said earlier in the program that it was full pads today. It is not. It is still just shells at Alabama football practice. And if you're curious what shells mean, that means helmets, shoulder pads, and shorts. So they do have shoulder pads on, but they don't have the football pants on yet. But I'm assuming I think that's tomorrow. I guess it's all dictated by NCAA rules, but not today. All right. Good morning, Drew. How are you?
Good, Gary. How are you?
Doing great. Let's just pick up with Alabama football. This is, a big practice today as they are, really into the heart of camp now. And we've got a little bit of a barometer based on what we've been able to see and hear from the coaches as to how it is gone so far with practice number 5 today. Just your impressions based on your evaluations and listening to the coaches and players talk on how it's gone to this point.
Well, the first thing is no injuries. There's already been major injuries at Tennessee and Notre Dame and throughout college football. So even though they haven't put on full pads yet, it's always good to not have any major injuries, because no news is good news when you're talking about fall camp, especially when you haven't scrimmaged yet. Scrimmages are usually where the jobs are won or lost. So far, Alabama, has come out, I think relatively healthy, which is great. I think there's some interesting competition going on along the offensive line, especially at the tackle spot. But that also means guys are improving, which is good. Competition is never bad for your football team. It sounds like some young guys in the secondary have also improved and stepped up. That the secondary to me was the biggest question going into fall camp, followed by the offensive tackle competition, especially at right tackle, which I think will come down to Elijah Pritchett, certainly, and Wilkin Formby. I think of Caden Proctor. I know he's rotating right now with Pritchett, but I think Proctor is in better shape. He looks like he's moving very well. I think he will be the left tackle. But, they've come a long way since Kalen DeBoer got there in the spring, because Pritchett had some issues off the field. Formby was finishing a red shirt, and Proctor wasn't even on the team. So I think they've had some nice development there along the at the center spot, at the offensive tackle spot. And then at center, you've got Brailsford back. Coach Cap said this weekend he's probably one of the top 5 strongest guys on the team. We know what he did at Washington a year ago, and we didn't see him the second half of spring practice. So I think the offensive line is coming along nicely. And then, of course, the third thing for me was the defensive line and the consistency there, because there is no excuse for the defensive line not being one of the top 3 or 4 in the SEC. They have the talent. They have some depth. They may not have an alpha dog yet, but hopefully that could be a guy like Jaheim Otis, who we didn't even see in the spring, when Kalen DeBoer got there. So hopefully he can take that next step, under the tutelage of Freddie Roach. But like I said, it does sound like the team's developing nicely, and encouraged by what I've heard so far early in fall camp through 4 practices.
Drew, when you look at this football team, this program, this new coaching staff coming in, it is kind of a unique situation for Coach DeBoer to inherit a program that's really at the top of college football. Now, I know same thing with Sharon Moore at Michigan. They were the national champions last year, but he was already on that staff. He just takes over being, promoted from offensive coordinator to head coach. This is a situation where you have a new coaching staff coming in, but certainly not coming into a situation where the team, the program is down and the talent level is low, like is often the case with new staffs. In fact, even though Washington made the national championship game last year and had an outstanding football team, a great football team, Pac-12 champion. Drew, would you, in your opinion, say this is the most talented roster that Coach DeBoer has ever coached?
Very likely. Certainly, you can't take anything away from that Washington roster. They had 3 draft picks at wide receiver in the top 3 rounds, and they had 10 guys drafted just like Alabama did, no question. But they had coached those guys up for 2 years, and when he took over that Washington program, they were 4-8 in the toilet, and they weren't very good. And in 2 years, he went 25-3, and and last year he waxed Oregon's ass twice and won the Pac-12 title. So no question they deserve to be in the playoff and that they're one of the best teams in the country. They certainly didn't beat Michigan in the national championship game, but Michigan, of course, eliminated Alabama in the Rose Bowl. So Michigan had a great football team. Sharon Moore is taking over a great situation, but I think Kalen DeBoer is as well. I think he's hired a great staff. You know, not the exact staff he had at Washington. I think it's going to be better on the defensive side of the ball. Pretty much, it's brand new on the defensive side of the ball. Chuck Morrell, his co-DC, is part of the staff. As which it could be very valuable as an analyst. But he was able to hire Mo Lindquist, the standing head coach from Buffalo, Colin Hisler from Wisconsin under Luke Fickell, who I have a lot of respect for. That's your secondary coaches. And then you got Kane Womack coming over from head coach in South Alabama to run your defense, no doubt about it. And then, of course, we know you got Christian Robinson, an SEC veteran, coaching your edge guys, your Wolves. And then Freddie Roach, the only holdover. So I think when you look at it, he brought most of his offensive staff with him. He's an offensive-minded head coach, but I think he's got a good defensive staff that he's hired. I think no question. And then when you look at the roster, certainly it stung to lose, the trio that they lost, and but that, they were able to get Caden Proctor back. But losing Caleb Downs, he was one of the best freshmen in college football last year. That's certainly not easy. You lose Isaiah Bond and Amari Knobloch, but you bring in Ryan Williams and Caleb Odom. So I think overall that's a wash. And if Keon Sabb is a special talent, then you may have offset the loss of Caleb Downs too. So now do I expect Keon Sabb to be Caleb Downs? Probably not. No, but I still think he's a very, very good player. And then you also brought in Domani Jackson, Deshaun Jones, King Mack, Cameron Howard, and then not to mention as good a foursome at freshman that maybe, and that's the kind of the legacy Nick Saban left, because that foursome was basically brought in by Nick Saban when you're talking about Jalen Mbakwe. We've been hearing about his improvement. No question, excited about that. Xavier Brown may very well start the first game. Guys like George Teague think he's a special talent, and I respect George so much because he and Langham I still think are the best tandem to ever play together at Alabama. So when you look at Xavier Brown, Jalen Mbakwe, and that's not to mention Zay Mincy, watching Zay Mincy and drill, such great length, such great size. I mean, he's outstanding. And then Red Morgan, who was probably overlooked in the recruiting process, that committed from Central Phoenix City, the defending 7A state champ. That's as good a foursome in one freshman class as I think Alabama may have had under Nick Saban, and that's saying a lot considering all the talent that he brought to Tuscaloosa in his 17 years, winning 6 national championships.
Nice breakdown, Drew, on that roster. Yeah, staying with the coaching staff theme, because this isn't a situation where Coach DeBoer brought his entire staff. This is a blended staff. It's some Washington coaches, it's some holdover coaches, and it's some coaches that are new to the program coming from other schools. Going through the spring and now 5 practices in here in fall camp, just your sense on how this staff has blended together. Do you get a strong sense that they're on the same page, that everybody's working in unison? What is your opinion on staff continuity and staff just symmetry and chemistry with this staff?
Well, there's going to be good chemistry, Gary, because really the only one that hadn't worked with them before is Christian Robinson.
Right.
David Ballou stayed the strength coach because he was on the staff at Indiana when Kane Womack and Kalen DeBoer were the coordinators. And that's when Tom Allen had it rolling in Indiana. So, and I know Kane Womack and Colin Hisler have a history of they've worked together before. So there's already some chemistry there. And yes, Freddie Roach hasn't, worked with them before, but he's been at Alabama for 5 years now. Really more years than that when you consider his 2 stints as an off-field coach. So those guys have experience. And then you look at the offensive staff. Nick Sheridan has been, with Kalen DeBoer in previous stops, so he understands what they're teaching. Certainly they have some new pieces like Chris Kapellik along the offensive line, but his work so far has been outstanding. He's only been on campus for a few months. He's already, recruited the best 5-man class of the 2025 cycle, maybe that we've ever seen at Alabama. they could project at all 5 positions on the offensive line. Christian Robinson with Justin Hill, and Dawson Pruitt, he's done an outstanding job of, recruiting the Wolf spot. He's been able to get a couple of elite players there, no doubt about it. So those two guys, even though they didn't have, experience with this previous coaching staff, they've done a nice job in the short amount of time they've been here. And Christian Robinson, played, in the SEC, been at Florida, been at Georgia. I believe he played at Georgia. He's coached at Florida. He's coached at Auburn. He's been around the league, so he knows the landscape of the SEC. So you would expect him to do well. And then with that offensive staff, they're going to have good chemistry. When you talk about Sheridan, it's very important that Sheridan, Jamarcus Shepard, and I think Kalen DeBoer have all worked together before, because they're going to be the trio that runs this offense. And then Chris Kapelic, I know from talking to him, he had kind of known Kalen DeBoer before and had some connections to him through other people. So, and I think he's hit the ground running. He understands what they want to do offensively. But that trio I just mentioned, Jamarcus Shepard, Nick Sheridan, and Kalen DeBoer, they're going to be the ones to get this offense rolling, no doubt. And I think Brian Ellis was a good get at tight end because he gives you some in-state connections. He had done a great job at UAB. So I think overall there's a lot of balance to the staff, a lot of ties to in-state recruiting. And I know right now Auburn has controlled the in-state recruiting, but Alabama still has the better class on paper. And no one signed anything, and we'll see what happens. See if Naheem Alford ultimately still signs with Ohio State. We'll see where Derek Smith ends up. Certainly he split from Alabama to Auburn, and Antonio Coleman split 3 times. But I still think there's time for Alabama to finish out the recruiting class very strong. And they probably are going to, this is just a guesstimate on my part, I would say 5 to 6 more guys will be added to the class. And, we'll see it. Certainly Keelan Deere is one to watch at running back. They may add another back depending on what Turbo Rogers ultimately does. And then I think a linebacker, if they could find the right guy, a couple of defensive linemen, a safety. So they know what positions they kind of need to attack. Maybe another wide receiver, depending on how the season unfolds. But I think the wide receiver core, too, it's kind of a position that's been undervalued. And the great thing is we haven't seen this team play yet. And a lot of receivers, like Emmanuel Henderson, I think kind of been flying under the radar. This change in coaching staff could lead to a new lease on life for some of these guys, and you could see their production skyrocket a little bit, I think.
Drew DeArmond with us from 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville. The coaches poll came out yesterday for the first time since 2009. Alabama's not in the top 3. That's amazing, but they are number 5. Of course, if you want to have a positive vibe, they were 5 in 2009 and, of course, won the national championship. They're first under Nick Saban. Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, the top 5. Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Michigan, Penn State, and Florida State round out the top 10. There are 9 SEC teams in the top 25. Alabama plays 5 of them. Just your reaction to the coaches poll. Not that it really matters that much at this point, but Alabama out of the top 3 for the first time in 15 years.
That's fine. Let Alabama, kind of operate. And it's hard for Alabama to be under the radar because of their high profile and because it is the greatest college football program in history. And anybody with a functioning brain that can read will understand that because, there just doesn't, you go all the way back to the 1920s, it doesn't compare. But again, they're under a first-year head coach. Nick Saban had the best 17-year run we've ever seen in the sport. So I'd say being, 5th in the nation going with a coaching change is pretty good. So I think Alabama will take that, but I'm sure right now Georgia's getting a lot of the headlines. I figured they would be number 1. The Ohio State Buckeyes going to be number 2. They've probably got the most expensive roster in college football. And then Texas, they've got a lot of returnees. There's no doubt about it. And Dan Lanning's done a great job at Oregon. Probably glad that he doesn't have to face Kalen DeBoer in the Big Ten. So, but again, I think Alabama would probably take that right now. It's pretty meaningless anyway. You got to go out and play the game. And so certainly, but a top 5 spot in the early season is good, but your schedule's very challenging, and you know what it's going to take to make the college football playoffs. You got to finish in the top 3 or 4 in the SEC, and as you looked at that poll, Gary, I mean, the top 4 in the SEC are in the top 6.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's no surprises in the poll, really, to me.
Yeah, that's really where I was going to go with my next question. You look at Georgia, you look at Texas, you look at Alabama, and you look at Ole Miss, all in the top 6. Do all 4 of those teams make the college football playoff?
That's who I picked in the preseason. I picked Georgia, Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss. So I believe they all can make it. I have friends in the media that think 5 teams may make it. I only wish that would happen so Dennis Dodd, Pat Forty, and some of these people I can't stand in the national media would have to basically drink some bourbon before the playoffs started because it'd be driving them insane. But I do. That's the 4 teams I think that I picked to make it. You know, I'm the most leery of Ole Miss just simply because Lane Kiffin has, when it's come to Power 5 football and Power 4 now, he's had trouble being consistent, at times against the elite competition like Alabama and Georgia. Now, certainly he's had 2 seasons of 11 and 10 wins and done a great job at Ole Miss, but also his schedule kind of sets up this year. He doesn't have to play Alabama or Auburn, and Alabama's given him a lot of problems. We'll see what happens against Georgia. But certainly he's done a great job putting his roster together on paper, and if they can stay healthy, I think Ole Miss can definitely make the playoff, and if they did, it would be immeasurable with the impact of that program if Lane Kiffin could have another double-digit win season and get Ole Miss to the college football playoff for the first time in the modern era.
Drew, Coach Saban this will be our final topic, but Coach Saban has changed so much in coaching, from the salaries, not just for the head coaches, but for the staff, the assistant coaches, what they're paid. It's such a different game. These guys can get in and financially they can make a lot of money fast. And you look now with Coach Saban gone, Mark Stoops is the longest tenured head coach. Already Kirby's creeping up there. What's the shelf life now for a head coach? I'm talking about a successful coach. I'm not talking about the one that's run out of there. A successful coach at one of these big programs. Saban spent 17 years, even at a point in his career where people, he was already in his mid-50s when he got here. Coach Bryant spent 25 years here. But what's the shelf life now for a successful coach? Is it 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years? How do you see that playing out?
It depends on the program where you coach. I was told when Nick Saban got to Tuscaloosa, he would be there 2 to 5 years max, and that coaches didn't stay at one place. There were not going to be any more Bobby Bowden and Joe Paternos, people of that nature. Well, Nick Saban stayed 17 years. Nobody saw him doing that because he was given every tool to succeed. Kirby Smart's already in year 9 at Georgia. Next year will be year 10. Does it look like he's going anywhere anytime soon? I mean, he could end up being there 20-plus years. There's no telling. Lane Kiffin, I don't think he'll be at Ole Miss 20-plus years, but if he wanted to, he probably could be if he keeps winning at this clip, and he's a young guy. So I think that narrative of, no coach is going to stay anywhere a long time, the NIL and the transfer portal need to be fixed. There's no question about it. But I think college football is too important. It will be fixed. If you go to a program or a university with a good school president, a great athletic director, and alignment, a coach can stay there 10 or more years. This thing about, there's no way any coach is going to stay in college football 5, 6, 7, 8 years anymore. I mean, that may be the case if you're at a university that doesn't have the proper alignment and the proper infrastructure. That's why Texas and Texas A&M haven't won anything since the cows came home, because they've got all the money in the world, Gary. But if you don't have alignment, if you don't have vision, if you don't have a singleness of purpose, you're not going to go. That's why Nick Saban didn't go to Texas after Mack Brown got fired. And we'll see if Stark can stay at Texas. He's off to a really good start there. If he continues on that path, he could stay at Texas for 20 years. So I think all this stuff about nobody's going to stay in college football anymore, that may be true for some programs, but if you're a program like Alabama and you have the kind of alignment they've got right now, and that continues, Kalen DeBoer could be there 10 or more years. So I just think overall right now it depends on your leadership and your alignment on how long the coach's longevity will be.
Terrific segment as always, Drew. Really enjoy having you on each week, and we got a minute or so here for you to tell everybody, where they can find you.
Yeah, they can find me at DrewD977ESPN on X, and of course our station account is 977ESPN all of our content from Talking Ball and Scott Tyson and I bringing the show from 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday is on our website, 977ESPN.com, and also on our SoundCloud page, 977ESPN. We have all of our stuff posted there, and we always enjoy each week being on the Gary Harris Show, talking the ball on Tuesday. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Drew. 9:52 here on the program. This hour being brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Hey, the YMCA of Tuscaloosa is ready when you're ready for the Y. It's just that simple. The YMCA is right there at 2300 13th Street. I'm back in there working out. I love the place. I love the people. I love the staff. It is a great facility for you to reach your fitness goals. The YMCA of Tuscaloosa, 2300 13th Street downtown. Give them a call if you want to set up a visit, 205-345-9622, or find
new line for well-qualified customers plus tax and $35 device connection charge. Contact us before canceling entire account to continue remaining bill credits. Bill credits end if you pay off device early. See details at T-Mobile.com.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you.
High quality ingredients. We want to say, that sounds great. We've been doing that since 1974.
Under the biggest cactus in town, Taco Casa.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather hot and dry today with a good supply of sunshine, the high 95. Clear tonight, the low 74. Tomorrow is sunny day, the high 97. Thursday and Friday, lots of sunshine both days, highs between 92 and 95. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:56, but we're going to squeeze in a phone call to close it out with the legendary Digger. That's right. I gave him legendary status. To what do I owe this pleasure, Digger?
You owe this pleasure to let me know that Drew DeMoron is off his meds today.
All right, what did he say that got your goat?
Well, first of all, you're not the greatest program in the history of college football.
Who's better?
Huh?
Who's better?
Well, it's not Alabama.
Who's better?
Not Alabama. It's not Alabama. Okay, let me tell you why. Okay, you're not a clean program, Gary. You're rogue.
Oh,
you're a football factory. Come on. How many vacated wins do you have? It's you, LSU, and Ole Miss. All of y'all are in the top 3 for vacated wins. You can't follow the rules. You have trouble complying. You just go ahead and make up these national championships. There are sanctions you've got to follow. Y'all don't do that, okay? Since the 20s, y'all don't do that. When Bear Bryant took over the Wishbone from Emory Bellard, they said, you can't have tearaway jersey. That didn't stop Bear Bryant from winning all those natties with tearaway jersey. Okay, the SEC let it go. Everywhere else, he would have been vacating those wins, too. He's 0-7 against Texas. 9-1-2 against Texas, Alabama is. 2-0 in Tuscaloosa.
They hate us because they ain't us.
Out there?
They hate us because they ain't us. That's
No, y'all sit there. I'm listening to you, and they say, give me one substance that you deserve this claim. Tell me, what is it?
Let me ask you this, or I'll give you this. Just since
give me one. That's all I'm
about to give you one. Forget the pre-poll era even. Forget the poll era. Alabama has won 13 national championships in the poll era. 6 by Bryant, 6 by Saban, 1 by Stallings. That is enough right there, just since 1936, to make Alabama the greatest program of all time.
No. Sorry, you don't even have the most wins.
Second,
okay?
Second
you don't
behind,
have the highest
second behind
percentage.
Michigan.
You don't even have the highest winning percentage.
Even with the vacated wins, still second behind Michigan for all-time victories.
They're not counting vacated wins in that thing. I saw it. Okay, you're still about 15 behind Notre Dame.
Nope.
Okay, so I'm telling you, you got to look at your numbers and double check it.
I will do that.
Okay.
All right, Digger, we got to get out of here.
Percentage.
Look
at the winning percentage.
I'm going to, and I'm
Readjustable base with select Sealy mattresses, all with free and fast delivery. Get matched at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Nick Cope.
In the NFL, the saga between the 49ers and receiver Brandon Ayuk continues. Reports say San Francisco has trade frameworks in place with the Patriots and the Browns, and it's up to Ayuk to decide if he wants to accept a contract from either of those teams. NBC Sports Bay Area says the Commanders and the Steelers are no longer players to land Ayuk. Reports say Lions corner Emmanuel Mosley suffered a torn pec in practice and is out indefinitely. At the Paris Olympics, USA men's basketball back in action today for the quarterfinals, facing Brazil at 3:30 Eastern. USA women's soccer plays Germany in the semifinals today. That's coming up at noon Eastern. And in college football, recording artist Pitbull has purchased the naming rights to FIU.
Ox Home Services. Call Ox Home Services today at 205-979-0946 or visit oxhomeservices.com.
Now, this hour's West Alabama real-time news update from the Tuscaloosa Thread Newsroom.
4 Alabama swift and high water rescue teams are being deployed into areas of the southeast inundated by 20 and more inches of rainfall from former Hurricane Debbie. Former Green Track CEO Luther Wynn is urging Greene County residents to not take Mac Davis, the head of a group of investors who would like to return dog racing to Green Track, seriously. He didn't believe Davis could get a license. And National Night Out is tonight between 5:30 and 8 at Palmore Park in West End. First responders from across the area will be present.
Get 24/7 local news coverage and sports updates when you download the free Tuscaloosa Thread app and sign up for twice daily email newsletters. The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show. Gary Harris, Chase Brumfeld. It's 10:02 a.m. on this Tuesday, August 6, 2024. As we said at the top of the show, Kristen Jones was scheduled with us, new head coach at Paul Bryant High School. We'll get him on at another time. He had a meeting this morning as they start school tomorrow. I'm trying to get somebody from practice to jump on with us in the next segment, so I'm working on that as we speak. All right, Digger, if you're still listening, you want to call back in and continue the debate, you can. But if you are listening, here are the numbers. Just that again, I'm gonna stand by. I'm gonna back Drew up that Alabama's the greatest program ever. When you add in the number of national titles, with the total number of victories, with the history-making performances that Alabama had in the 1920s in the Rose Bowl under Wallace Wade that put Southern football on the map. Currently, I was trying to pull this up before I got off the phone with him because I knew I was right. Total victories all time in college football. This does not include vacated or forfeited wins. So Alabama would have probably about 15 more if those were added in. But Michigan is number one. Of course, Michigan's played football a longer time than Alabama has. But Michigan has had 1,393 total games. Michigan has 1,004 wins. Alabama's played 1,345 total games. Alabama has 965 wins. Ohio State has played 1,350 games. Ohio State has 964 wins. Notre Dame's played 1,326 games. Notre Dame has 948 wins. And Texas, Digger School, has played 1,373 games. So they've played 28 more games than Alabama, but have 17 less wins. They're at 948 as well. Winning percentage, which was something he tried to chime in on. It's basically dead even at the top. Michigan, a 73.4 winning percentage. Alabama, 73.3% winning percentage. Ohio State, a 73.4 winning percentage. Notre Dame, a 73% winning percentage. Texas, a 70.2 winning percentage. Oklahoma is sixth in all-time wins, 4 behind their rivals at Texas. But they have a higher winning percentage. They have 944 wins, but they have a 72.6 winning percentage. Then rounding out the top 10 in total wins, Yale, Penn State, Nebraska, and Harvard. No other SEC teams in the top 10 from the traditional SEC. Now, obviously, Oklahoma and Texas are in the top 10 now, and they're in the SEC. But of traditional SEC schools, Georgia is at number 11 with 881 wins. Tennessee, if you're wondering, is at 14th with 865 wins. And Auburn, LSU is at, LSU 17 with 806 wins. Auburn is 18 with 799 wins. So, yes, Alabama is, Digger, the greatest program in college football history. And you'll say, well, Michigan has more wins. Well, Michigan doesn't have nearly as many national championships. And they have played, as I said, 48 more games than Alabama has played. Ohio State has played more games than Alabama has. Now, Notre Dame has played less than Alabama has. But the winning percentage for Alabama is higher, because you were spouting off about Notre Dame having a higher winning percentage. Like I said, they're really close. 73.4% for Michigan, 73.3% for Alabama, 73.4% for Ohio State, 73% for Notre Dame, Texas 70.2%, Oklahoma 72.6%. So your winning percentage is not as high as your rival. All right, see, Digger, if you call in here and you throw that stuff out at me, you think I'm not going to back it up with facts, but I am. Maybe all the shows that you call won't do that, but I will. Let's get Tom on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline. Hey, good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Gary. Congratulations on the number one show rating.
Thank you. We had it last book as well, so we're on a good roll here. Thanks to people like yourself.
Yeah. Now I've got a little advice I'm going to give you. Okay.
Okay.
Do not be walking around, strutting around like a peacock in front of Barry Sanderson.
First of all, that's not advice. That sounds like an order. That sounds like a directive.
Well, I'm not up to giving orders yet, am I?
Well, that's what that sounded like. It wasn't. So let me give you some advice. Well, do not strut around like a peacock in front of Barry Sanderson.
That could be construed as advice. Come on now.
Well, I haven't, and I wouldn't. And
no, I'm just joking.
I know you are.
But congratulations. I think that's a big deal.
Well,
and,
the reason I'm proud of it is, first of all, I have a lot of respect for all the shows that we have here. I really, really do. Right. And I, as I've said before, this time slot fits my schedule. But we have built a loyal audience over the 9 years that I've been doing it. Because ideally, 9 to 11 is not a time slot that you would say, oh my gosh, that's a great time slot for sports talk.
Well, I don't know anymore, because see, the thing has changed. It used to be all about drive time in the morning.
Right, it was. You're right.
It's not like that.
Now people aren't driving as much, right?
Anymore. But it's not that. people are driving, but the different ways that you can access the programming by streaming, and I know a lot of people that have it on in the background in their office.
Yeah, it's helped my show. You're right. That first of all, a lot of people work at home. Secondly, people can just plug a little earbuds into their phone and listen that way. You're right. There's a lot more ways to access sports talk radio,
and that's good.
Traditional terrestrial radio than there was 30 years ago. You're right. When people then either had to be in the car driving, or if they were at work, more times than not, if they had the radio on, people could hear it, so they couldn't have it on. So you're right. No, it's helped. It's helped. But listen, man, I enjoyed doing my show. I said when I started this show back on the Tuesday after Labor Day, 2015. So we're closing in on a 9-year anniversary. That I was excited then to be a part of this lineup, but that my show probably was going to be a little bit different than most of the shows. I wanted to do a show. I wanted to do the show that I've done. I wanted to do a show that was built around Alabama sports, but wasn't just about Alabama sports. I wanted to do NFL and Major League Baseball and NBA and other college sports. And I think that we've done that. I think we've had a broad-based show that covers a lot of topics. some people don't like it, but a lot of people do. And, you've been a listener for, heck, man, I don't know how many years now. So people seem to, one thing I'll say is people that listen to my show seem to stay with my show. They enjoy it. But I hope we're attracting some new listeners as well. Well,
that's the lifeblood of radio is constantly being diverse enough to attract new listeners and grow. In any kind of entertainment, it's all about growth. But it's always been interesting to me. Radio is an interesting dynamic for entertainment. And the thing about it is, for years and years here, drive time ratings, all that. But it's not that anymore. And I think a lot of management missed that point about how people consume their radio entertainment. And I think they're still hung up on some of the old ways. But anyway, congratulations. I enjoy the show, and I'm proud for you for your rating.
Well, thank you very much. And maybe it'll help me get some more advertising, because that's another thing for my show with me having a full-time job. And we've talked about this before on the air. I don't mind saying it. I do relationship advertising. I'm not out soliciting people, but I have lost a couple advertisers recently. So if someone's out there and wants to be a part of the Gary Harris Show, get in touch with me. I'm not hard to find. And speaking of that, this is another way to spread the message. Social media. I don't do this enough. Tom, I'll just say this while you're on the line, because I know you follow me on Twitter. People are welcome to follow me there at Gary Harris _WVUA, and putting out some content there. And then on my Facebook, my WVUA 23 Gary Harris Facebook page, I have had a great success there, putting out a ton of content, ton of videos. So people are welcome to follow me on Twitter /X at Gary Harris _WVUA, and my Gary Harris WVUA 23 page on Facebook. Just type in on the search bar, type in Gary Harris WVUA 23, and I'll pop up there. I'd love for people to give me a follow.
Yeah, that's very important this day and age. You can see the effects that social media can have on a product. It really is interesting on that aspect too. Anyway, I was just calling in to yell at you and tell you congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much, Tom. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And I just got somebody just sent me a message. Speaking of Twitter, Jeremy pointed out that Tom, are you still with us, or are you gone?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay.
I'm listening.
I had a typo. I was in a hurry this morning, and Gary, that is not a real phone number. I just now realized that when I put out the lineup this morning, I don't guess Chase caught it either. I put out for the phone number, I put out hang on, let me find it here. What did I put out? I put out 205-3:2-9904. And I think it's too late for me to edit that now, so we'll have to live with it. So, but I think most people get Gary, that's not a real phone number. You're right, Jeremy. Good catch. How about that, Tom? I put out the wrong phone number this morning. All right, thanks. All right, good morning. Have a great day. All right, 342-904. I didn't catch, because you have an hour. Since I'm a blue check mark, I had an hour that I could have fixed it. And I didn't catch it. So anyway, that happens. All right. It is 10:13, and we are due to go ahead and take a break here, because I'm going to try to get somebody from over at football practice. I'm working on that right now. So we'll go to the break here. 100% satisfaction and appointments set around your schedule. Give us a call for all your steam cleaning needs. 205-553-9460. Houston Hydro Steam. Quality work you can stand on.
The Alabama Securities Commission protects you from financial fraud. Anyone asking you for investment money must be licensed. You're careful with your money. Fraudsters aren't. Before you invest, call our hotline at 1-800-222-1253 to verify the licensing of the person making an offer and the product. Don't lose.
Chiropractic, the only third-generation chiropractor with over 26 years experience in Tuscaloosa. Call Tidwell Chiropractic at 752-2503.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hours.
You can shop online at TuscaloosaCDJR.com. At Tuscaloosa Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, you pick it out and we'll work it out. Roll Tide.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather hot and dry today with a good supply of sunshine, the high 95. Clear tonight, the low 74. Tomorrow is sunny day, the high 97. Thursday and Friday, lots of sunshine both days, highs between 92 and 95. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Want to know what's going on with the Crimson Tide? Download the Tide 100.9 app today.
All right, 10:17. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. And as I said earlier, Kristen Jones had to cancel due to a meeting. We're going to get him on at another time. I said I was going to try to get somebody from Alabama's football practice. And why not go to my guy, Stu McCann from WVUA 23. Theodore, one of our interns, is with him right now. And this is how hard they're working. They've already been to Alabama football practice. Now they're at Hillcrest practice. They'll be going back to Alabama to get the defensive coaches and players afterwards. So busy morning, but Stu's going to squeeze in, 6 or 7 minutes for us here to give us an Alabama practice update. Good morning, Stu.
Hey, Gary, how's it going?
Doing great, man. Appreciate you, because I know you guys are running, but you were at practice this morning. Shells still, I think maybe tomorrow. I was thinking to go out in full pads, but maybe it's tomorrow. But, another hot one, but a pretty day for practice. What were some observations from the team this morning that you took in while videoing?
Yeah, I mean, to start out, I think that we were not sure. It's unclear about how many days you work out in no pads and then helmet and shoulder pads. I think there was a sense that they're going to be in full pads, so since it wasn't today, I'm sure it'll be tomorrow. I think really the positions that we're kind of taking a look at today were the quarterbacks and wide receivers. One thing, though, I want to mention is I think over the weekend, Coach DeBoer had mentioned that Xavier Brown is dealing with something. He has a cast on his hand. So interested to see that because I missed that on Sunday. But he was out there, and it didn't seem to be impeding him too much. He had to make catches with one arm or one hand, and talented guys, no problem doing that. For you and me, that would probably be a deal breaker.
Yeah, I guess so. You were at practice last week, too, and anchored the sports this weekend on WVUA 23, so you've been keeping a close pulse on this program. What have you seen from the coaching staff while you've been out there? I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the energy. Of course, I would say every SEC practice is full of energy, but it seems like the music's been toned down a little bit for fall camp as opposed to the spring. It's not as loud, but watching this staff work, what's impressed you about them?
Just their energy. I think that was the thing that it was clear. You mentioned the music. I do not notice that nearly as much as I did in spring practice. Maybe it was just getting used to it, but I do think that they have kind of toned it down or turned it down, certainly. But you hear a lot more of the whistles and the popping than maybe you did in the spring. But just the energy. I mean, you see the coaches, and I think that with the previous staff, with Coach Saban and some of those, they were very involved. Like, they would go through the drills and things like that. And I think that is certainly the case, if not more so, with this staff, just like how engaged they are. We did not really get too much of a chance to see the past staff the last few years in practice, so it was based on what we got in terms of they would send a feed to everybody. We were not allowed to be out there ourselves. But just being out there in the energy, you can really pick that up. It's tangible.
Watching the quarterbacks, I was just watching video clips at the station yesterday to put something together for last night, and it just was amazing to me how quickly all the quarterbacks, I mean, when they're going through drills, I mean, boy, it's, Milroe and Simpson were going through, and then you had Mack and Lonergan, and then you had some of the walk-on quarterbacks. So, I would watch Milroe and Simpson, and boy, they were right back up. It seemed like in about 20 seconds. There's no wasted time with those quarterbacks, it appears.
No, and I was focused more so. They would have, say, Lonergan and Mack on one side of the field, and they would have Milroe and Simpson on the other. They would be doing the wide receivers would be running one direction for one of the quarterbacks and the other direction for the other. But so I was paying more attention to the Simpson and Jalen Milroe group, but they did not waste any time. And I think that maybe has to do with, even though it is a new staff, that these guys, this is what they were doing all last year. So they kind of got into a routine because they've been the two people maybe on that side working together side by side throughout the entire practice. But they got a rhythm, and it is very, effortless, it feels like.
All right, Stu, I know you're down at Hillcrest getting ready to, like I said, cover a high school practice before you go back to Alabama. But finally, a lot of talk about the defense having some holes. Cornerback, outside linebacker. I think most people feel good about the safeties, feel good about the inside linebackers, obviously, and even the interior defensive line. What about those holes? Let's start at corner. A lot of talk about the young cornerbacks, watching practice. What's your vibe on that position?
I think that a lot of it is almost like the wide receivers, where they can talk about the number of talent. We know about how heavily recruited all of these guys are, but how are they with the adapting to the college game and things like that? Because that is the thing that I don't think anybody doubts the amount of talent, is the experience. And are you going to be ready for that first time if you haven't had the chance to do it before on a Saturday? But so it's tough to tell right now. I can say that when we were watching some of the drills, there was maybe a few guys with some focus stuff. Not bad. They were going through it. They were getting everything right, but then maybe they wouldn't complete the catch or catch the football or something like that. That is not anything that I think that, it's one of those things that maybe they're thinking about it. But again, from my vantage point, everything looked really good. All these guys look really talented. It's just like you got to piece every single thing together. And I think some of those guys, that's still something that they're thinking about, all the things that they got to do maybe.
All right, lastly, Stu, and then I'll let you get to work at Hillcrest. But from a media standpoint, we've talked a lot about the availability, something we did not have in our Nick Saban, assistant coaches, more player availability, and doing it right after practice in the indoor facility. From a media standpoint, is that working for you? Has it been smooth? Do you like it? How's that going?
Oh, I think it's been more than smooth. I think that this is because first off, it is, they get everything all set. So you're going to be talking about today, it'll be Kane Womack, the defensive coordinator, and then you get to request players. But the guys are going to be far more, I would think, just walking off the playing field, they're going to be far more open to talking. And I think that because it isn't something where they go into the locker room, they get all set and ready to go, they put on their polo shirt, and then they got to head upstairs to where we would be doing media inside of Now More. So I think just, hey, you got 3 minutes or 4 minutes, bring these guys in, cycle them through. It's not that much of a disruption. They don't have to change their schedule. It isn't that much of an impediment for the things that they're about to go off and do. So that's the thing that I think that we really appreciate. Plus, we maybe get to control a little bit of who we request and maybe those guys coming through, rather than a lot of times we were talking to the same Alabama players who were really good and had great insight and everything, but a new voice.
All right, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you jumping on with us. You got a big practice right there, you and Theodore, with Hillcrest moving up to 7A this year. So we'll be looking forward to that, too, on WVUA 23 with our high school football previews. Thanks, Stu.
No problem. Thanks.
All right. Stu McCann from WVUA 23 was at practice this morning in Alabama. Now he's at Hillcrest practice, and he'll be going back to Alabama to get interviews. So he's humping it this morning. We're glad that he jumped on with us, give us a little bit of a practice update. All right. It's 10:25 here on the Gary Harris Show, and we're going to be wide open for phone calls from here on out, although we are going to get, yesterday I played some of the Kalen DeBoer clips, but we did not finish them. That's from Sunday, and also the Nick Sheridan offensive coordinator clips from Saturday. We didn't get to those at all, so we're going to work some of those in on the program as well. But we'd love to have more of your input. I wish Digger would call back in. Now that I've laid the facts out there, I wish I put it. But you know what? If I'd have said, here's the deal with him. If I'd have said, all right, we got to hit this top of the hour break, stay on the line with us, he would have hung up. He doesn't wait. So I would have liked to have had him on the line when I laid out the facts as to why Alabama is the top program in college football. When you take the different criteria and add them together, I don't think there's any doubt about it. But maybe we'll hear back from him. If you've got something on your mind, you can give us a call, and we'd love to get you on. All right, we're going to take a timeout. And when we come back, phone calls are welcome on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline 205-342-9904. But we're going to get into the rest of that Kalen DeBoer sound that from Sunday that we did not play. Yesterday, I played several of the clips, but we'll hear more from the Alabama head coach. The Crimson Tide is in the heart of fall camp right now. Even though it's summer, it's fall camp. And
shop AI-ready PCs powered by Snapdragon X Series processors at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by the Alabama Department.
It gets the job done. You just have to get in the seat. Learn more at your John Deere dealer or visit johndeere.com/GatorXUV.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow truck, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadways.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's move over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the road.
.com/deal or text DEAL to 511-511. Text DEAL to 511-511 today. All dogs are unique. Your dog results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:30. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. Back to the numbers on why I consider Alabama the top program of all time. And again, those numbers that I gave you is an official list by the NCAA after vacated and forfeited games. So a lot of these programs, not just Alabama, a lot of them would have some more wins if it weren't for vacated and forfeited games. But it includes those. So this is the official list, like I said. And so, again, when you take a look at total victories, Alabama's second. Winning percentage, second by .101. You're talking about 73.4% for Michigan and Ohio State, 73.3% for Alabama. Then you add in the national championships. You add in the impact for an entire region. The one thing about, too, that works in Alabama's favor is football was established, of course, in the Northeast. That's the birthplace of the game, and that's why Yale, Harvard are still in the top 10 in total wins because they were powerhouses, early on when football was being played. Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Midwestern football. The South was not thought of as a football haven. In fact, Southern football was considered to be substandard compared to the Midwest and the Northeast. And Alabama changed that. Alabama single-handedly changed the perception of Southern football, going out to the Rose Bowl and beating that heavily favored Washington team. That changed it. So Alabama, the history, and I know you could say Notre Dame. Notre Dame has an unbelievable history too. But to take an entire region of the country and put that region on the map single-handedly as a football program, that's another reason. Impact. So when you add in impact, you add in total wins, you add in winning percentage, and you add in national championships, and you add in legendary coaches. That's another area that Alabama ranks highly in. Other programs have legendary coaches too, but you have a hard time finding a more legendary lineup than Wallace Wade, Paul Bryant, and Nick Saban. Then you add in Frank Thomas. You add in Gene Stallings, both national championship winning coaches. And to me, it's clear. I agree with Drew. Alabama is the greatest football program of all time. All right, let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park and North River hotline, and Dawsey is going to chime in with us this morning. What's up, Doss?
Hey, Gary, they say there are lies, there are dang lies.
Uh-oh. Spaghetti-o. Hang on, Doss. Hey, he's back. Hang on. Pick that back up because you dropped for a second. So start right back over. You dropped out right after dang lies.
So there's lies, dang lies, and then there are statistics.
Yeah.
which you threw back at the Texas guy.
Yeah, I was ready for him. And he won't call back in and debate with me now.
And I got a headache just from listening to that. I had to go take some aspirin. Talking about this coach, it's been a little while since I called in, so I got a nerve struck, so I had to call that. The thing about these polls and everything, and I'm not sure how much y'all have talked about this in the last couple of weeks. I think one thing that's good for us, and I'm not saying we're what's the word I'm looking for? Unmarked or unbullseyed because we're still in the top 5. But I do think we may be overlooked a little bit this year, and me and you both have seen a lot of Alabama football. And one thing I can say with a great deal of certainty, Alabama's always better when they're angry. Always better when they're angry. And not as good maybe when they're getting patted on the back. And I think you could say that about a lot of teams. But it seems to be the case with Alabama more. And, I don't know if anybody will overlook them, but I think it's a possibility. I think there might be this narrative out there amongst other teams, not just the media and fans, that, hey, maybe it's over. Maybe they're dropped off. Maybe they are slipping. Maybe that benefits us some this year.
Yeah, I don't think it hurts at all. I think that, listen, man, good football teams are good because they have talented players. That's where it starts. Great football teams are great because they have talented football players that are, bought in and do all the things that they need to do to prepare. And then during the game, they make the plays that they have to make to win those few games. Every great team is going to have a few games that could go either way. Do you come out on the right side of those, or do you come out on the wrong side of those? 2 years ago, Alabama came out on the wrong side of the LSU game and the Tennessee game, and it cost them a shot in Atlanta. It cost them a shot in the national championship. Last year during the regular season, more times than not, they made those plays. They made them. And they got to the SEC championship game and won the SEC championship, and then also got to the college football playoff. And in that game, it was Michigan down the stretch that made the play. So, but you're right. I think sometimes, regardless of what people say, Nick Saban always said, it's tough to get to the top of the mountain. It's harder to stay there. Sometimes you can be fueled by the fact that maybe you're not considered what you once were. In other words, you're good. You're a top 5 program. Most programs would give, a lot to be in the top 5 in the preseason. But for Alabama, it's somewhat of a fall. I mean, you've been in the top 3 for every year, for 15 years, and now you're not. And you're not picked to make it to Atlanta by the media. The media picked Georgia and Texas. You're picked 3rd in the SEC, which is still high in a 16-team league. But, yeah, you're not the creme de la creme. People say Georgia's got the best program in the country and in the conference. So, yeah, Dawsey, I think they'll use that. I think that, you'd rather just have continued excellence, which is what Alabama has done. But coming off of a couple of years in which they came up a little short, really 3 years in a row, they haven't won a title since 20. I think they'll be fired up with a new coaching staff, and whatever edge that gives you to do a little bit more, work a little bit harder, I think they'll have that. I agree with you.
Well, the emotion of anything, I think, wears off after a week or two into the season. It's got to be done during the summer and the fall camp, because once the season starts, you just got to go play. And all that talk about, this motivating you or that, whatever, I think it's too late at that point. But I think, you talked about being 3rd in the league. There's some people out there that think they might be the 4th or 5th best team. That's right. Watch out for Tennessee and Ole Miss. I'm not buying Ole Miss at all. They lose Quishon Judkins and a lot of guys off that team, and I'm not convinced Lane can do it. But anyway, there's people saying that, Tennessee could get us and Ole Miss can get us, and then, so on and so on. And so, like I said, the emotional wear off once the season starts. You got to go play. And like you just said, you got to execute. But I'm kind of like you. I haven't seen practice, obviously, but just some of the video, it does seem to be a good energy and a good pace. And Kalen DeBoer has been so positive. But I did hear, Gary, I don't know if you saw it, piece of video the other day. He was getting on some guys pretty good. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. Get better, get better. So we might be seeing another side of him.
Well, let's be clear. Let's be clear on this, Dawsey. Just because he says he's not going to curse at practice, and just because he's so good with the media, and he really genuinely is a nice guy, don't mistake that for soft. I mean, this guy's an intense competitor. He's 104-12 in his coaching career. I know it was at a lower level, but he was a great college football player. He's tough. He's hard nosed. He's a grinder, and I think that, I think a lot of times, fans can mistake, a guy being nice as weakness, and I don't see that at all with Kalen DeBoer. His practices, man, they move, they work, they get after it, and there's a lot of intensity out there. He's an intense individual.
Okay, Gary, well, thanks for the call. Let's let some other guys jump off.
Yeah, thank you, Dawsey. Good to hear from you. And we will keep it rolling. Next up, we're going to get to my pal Ellis up there in Tennessee. Hey, Ellis.
Doing all right this morning, Gary?
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you come up with all that for Digger, but he ain't called back.
I know. I'm kind of disappointed he didn't call back because I hit him. I hit him with some facts though, and he didn't want to. I guess he didn't want to go down that road.
Yeah, he didn't think you'd have facts, I reckon. I still ain't figured out why he calls an Alabama football talk show. Still ain't figured it out.
He hates us because he ain't us. I mean, that's just,
that's right.
That's what it is.
He tried to kind of feel a little bit good, by calling into the Alabama.
Let me tell you one thing about doing an Alabama radio show is you're going to get a lot of Alabama fans, and you're going to get a lot of Alabama haters. That probably is what differentiates Alabama from other programs too, is if there's a, station in Georgia, station in Mississippi or Louisiana or Texas that you're going to get the callers from that team's fan base. They're going to call in, but you probably don't get that many that team calls. But when you do Alabama, boy, the people that hate Alabama, they love to let you know they hate them. That's a big part of it.
Oh yeah. They hate them, and they still hate them now because they know they're going to be good. So they just hate them. So, like you said, they hate us because they ain't us.
That's right. When you getting back down to Tuscaloosa?
I'm coming down. I'm going to be down I'm going to get down there early Friday morning before the game.
Okay, so you're not going to make it this weekend for the fan day.
No, I'm not going to be able to make it. I got to work event. I got to work event up here at the winery this weekend.
Okay. But you'll be down for the Western Kentucky game.
Oh yeah. I'll be there for every home game.
Okay.
So maybe I can hook up with you and finally get to meet you.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was and I said, we've got Mike from Opelika is another one who had said, and he's texted me about the possibility of trying to, form something where we can get some people that listen to the shows together, and that's something I would love to do. Maybe we can work on it from one of the home games.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about? I've heard about it. Like the Red Elephant Club not going to be able to go to practice.
Yeah, that's
like
correct. From what I've been told, the Red Elephant Club's scrimmage that they usually attend is they're not going to be allowed to attend it this year. I think it has something to do with maybe something in the spring when they were at a scrimmage. I guess some information getting out that wasn't supposed to get out, or some updates and things like that. So I think this year for this fall, now maybe they'll bring it back in the spring next year. But the Red Elephant Club scrimmage, they're not going to be allowed to attend this year from what I understand.
Oh, yeah, and there's a lot of people up in arms about it, too.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. But you have to understand that when you have that privilege, there's a responsibility that goes with that. And part of the responsibility
keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, that's right. You're not supposed to leak out information. So.
No, don't be taking pictures. Okay, you was talking about the pawpaws.
Yeah.
You can order them from Walmart and have them shipped to your house.
Really?
Yes. I Googled it. I Googled the pawpaws, and I asked where I could buy them and why you can't go buy them from a store because it's hard to store them.
Okay.
But I've seen on there where you can order them from Walmart, and they will ship them to your house, and they're like $5 or $6. It shows a picture of it, but you can't go pick it up. Or anything, you can't go pick it up. It has to be ordered online.
Wow, I did not. Well, thanks for doing the research on that, because I'm as interested and curious about trying some now as you are.
Yeah, well, that's why I figured it out. So I'm gonna order them.
Yeah. Well, if you get some before I do, when you try them. You definitely make sure that you call in and give us a report on what they taste like.
Yes, sir, I will. Will do.
All right.
Will do. Congratulations on your show on top of that.
Well, I appreciate that, Ellis. I really do.
Yep. Yes, sir. But I'll see if I can call in tomorrow. Depends on how busy I am, but not too busy today. So, but I do listen.
Oh, I know you do, and I appreciate you, and like I've said before, man, I'm blessed to be a part of this, to have a local radio station with the caliber of guest host that we have, or host, and to go all day with local sports talk shows, not have a Fox show or a national show integrated in it. It's rare, man. In fact, I don't know of anybody else that does it. I don't know of any other.
I don't know nobody else that has shows like y'all do. I do not. And I'm very grateful for all of the shows on the radio station. You know, you get so much from listening, and then what y'all put out on the internet. You know, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I said that earlier too. If you're on Twitter, Ellis, and you're not already following me, make sure you follow me at Gary Harris _WVUA, and then on my Facebook.
I am, because I seen your top what was it, top 15 or top 25 teams.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, good. Yeah, I'm glad you're with me there. So yeah, we're trying to crank out some content there too. So, all right, brother.
Let's check out some of my posts I've been posting. I went and visited George Dickel Sunday.
How was that?
Oh, it was awesome. It ain't but about 15 miles from the house.
Okay. Well, yeah. So
ain't but about 25 miles to Jack Daniel.
Oh wow, you got them both right there close. You're in Tennessee whiskey territory, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, a lot of people, there's a lot of people that debate what's better, Tennessee whiskey or Kentucky bourbon. I'm assuming you're probably going to be a Tennessee whiskey guy, huh?
Tennessee whiskey.
All right. I hear you.
All right, roll tide, Gary.
Thank you, Ellis. Good to hear from you. All right, it is 10:47, and we need to get to our final break. And when we come back, we'll take phone calls if we get some more of them. I thought Digger was checking back in there for a minute. What happened with that?
So he was just calling to state that he wanted to correct D. Moron. That's what he said. I'm not calling to guess that. That's what he wanted, and he said that he would call later, but he's just really busy.
Okay.
He's in the motherland, and he said we'll get to Gary in a little bit.
All right, fair enough, Digger. All right, when we come back on the other side, we're going to get back to some of those Kayla DeBoer clips if we have time. If we get phone calls, we'll take the phone calls. So, and before we go to the break, I want to remind you about my good friends at Los Tarascos. When it comes to Mexican cuisine in Tuscaloosa, that's my go-to right here on Skyland Boulevard, just down from the radio station in Northport off Highway 43, and their newest location downtown at Timerson Square. That's right, 3 great locations with authentic Mexican food, and all 3 have bars, and of course, the margaritas. Nobody makes them like a Mexican restaurant. If you're going to get a margarita, you need to get it at Los Tarascos. Skyland Boulevard, Highway 43, Skyland Boulevard in Tuscaloosa, Highway 43 in Northport, and downtown Tuscaloosa at Timerson Square. All right, we'll be back with our final segment. Stay with us right here on the Gary Harris Show.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Tuesday edition of The Game, we're going to recap Alabama's first day in pads. We'll do that with Mike Detillier. We'll also do that with plenty defensive availability. We have coaches and players that we'll talk following practice. We'll bring all that to you starting at 2 p.m. here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hours.
Or trade guns, knives, ammo, sporting goods, and more. Gun show and night show hours are August 17th, 9 until 5, and August 18th, 10 until 4 at the Cottondale VFW.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather hot and dry today with a good supply of sunshine, the high 95. Clear tonight, the low 74. Tomorrow is sunny day, the high 97. Thursday and Friday, lots of sunshine both days, highs between 92 and 95. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Alabama fans are all over the world, and we are too. Download the Tide 100.9 app right now in the App Store and Google Play, and take the Crimson Tide everywhere you go.
All right, 10:52. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and time is winding down. Got a shout out from my friend Gavin Dickel down in Grand Bay. He is the one that sends me from Dickel Farms all those great sugar baby watermelons that I've been talking about. Canary melons. Also sent Ryan Fowler some. He said he's listening to us loud and clear down. He actually lives on Dolphin Island, and his farm is in Grand Bay. But listening down there, we appreciate him. Everybody that listens to us on the app or on the live stream, we appreciate you as well. All right, we got time to get a clip in from Kalen DeBoer. As I said yesterday, we were able to run a few clips, but not even close to all of them. So let's see. This is one that people are really interested in because with Brockermeyer having transferred out to TCU after the spring, Parker Brailsford, the center from Washington, who was all Pac-12 freshman last year, did not go through spring very much, but he is in line to be the starting center. He's got his weight up. Here's head coach Kalen DeBoer on Parker Brailsford.
Yeah, well, he knows the offense, so there's a lot of people looking to him to come up with a solution on where it all starts. He's pointing out the linebacker that they're blocking to, or where the protection set going to be set to. So he's confident that way, and those guys feel that. And then it's really cool seeing a guy like Book, who just eats, sleeps, and breathes this program and wants nothing but it to be great, and him just rubbing off, as Parker shows him and helps him, he helps him back. And it's fun seeing the pride that unit is developing, just walking into here just now, walking by them and some extra things that they're doing, player led, just because they don't want to just get it right. They want to be great at it.
All right, closing out the show with some Kalen DeBoer sound from Sunday morning following practice. All right, let's get to the clip, Chase, on Graham Nicholson, the kicker, and he talks about the specialist. You lose Will Reichard, who I saw hit a 58-yarder in practice the other day for the Vikings, but you bring in a guy who won the Groza Award. So here's Kalen DeBoer on Graham Nicholson and the specialist.
He's been really consistent, and honestly, all our kickers have, but specifically with Graham, I stand behind the kicker pretty much. I mean, I try to make it every kick. There might be one I miss here and there, but that ball flight is what you're looking for. I like his mindset. He's a very confident guy. I don't really know how he's going to respond when he misses one, and maybe right? But he's just great to have with us. I think the team is really accepted him in. I think he feels a part of it. And so, you can't help but look at what he's done in the past and already note that, man, this guy's really good. But you can see why each and every day. Got a good process about him. We're glad he's here. And, Burn Up, since we're in the special area, I mean, between him and Nealon Hibbett and, Connor's done a good job too kicking here this camp. So, I really feel like our specialists are going to be as good as any across the country.
All right, let's get one more clip in, Chase, before we close it out. And because a lot of people have talked to me about the motion that Alabama runs, pre-snap motion to try to confuse the defense. Here's Coach DeBoer talking about the motion in his offense.
Yeah, no, we do that. We do a lot of that, and we got to make sure we can play fast and that it's not complicated for us. So, the base plays and then as many different wrinkles and just different pictures we can run our base stuff out of is only going to make it to where the defense has to talk, adjust, and if we can just help the guys gain one step by making the defense have to think about the shift and the motion that just happened and the communication that goes with it. That's only going to help them. And we've done a lot of it here, the first 4 practices, much more than we did in the spring, just because, again, they're getting the install, they're getting more comfortable, they're trusting that we're going to get them into certain spots with certain plays and concepts, and they get to those spots, they're confident in themselves and the other guys around them. So I like where we're at there with all the moving parts, and it's no secret. We've done it for many years, so we're not talking about anything no one knows about.
All right, that's going to do it for the show, and we thank everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate Drew DeArmond and Stu McCann jumping on with us. We're going to reschedule Paul Bryant, head coach Kristen Jones, for another show. All right, tomorrow we're going to have Matt Coulter's back after a week off as NASCAR cranks back up this coming weekend for the NASCAR Report. And Brett Brewer, former Ole Miss punter, who his dad, the late Billy Brewer, was a really fine coach at Ole Miss and a great player there for the Rebels. He follows SEC football. It's a great interview. He's been on with us before. He'll be back to talk some SEC football with us tomorrow. Might be able to get a high school coach on tomorrow as well. That's coming up tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Catch me on Sports Tonight on WVUA 23 and with Rodney Orr for Tider Insider TV at 6:30 on WVUA 23. For Chase Brumfeld, I'm Gary Harris. T-Town Sports Daily is coming up next. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you again in the morning at 9 a.m.
listening to